Like Dominicans are black. That's what we are. But even in my own family, they hate being described as that. They say that they're not black. And there's like this huge internal hate of their own race. So me and my family get into it all the time about this.
I want to ask you something. From either your opinion or your understanding, why is it in your particular case, your family's case, why is it that they hate being identified as black?
I believe it has a lot to do with Haiti because, we share the same island. To me, we're the same people. We're on the same island. We are the same. That's just a fact. My last name is Coat, Coat. That's a slave name.
Technically, we all have slave names. Every last one of them, even us. Martinez, Hernandez, Cortez. These are all slave names.
Yeah.
A lot of people have this misunderstanding that think that only black people in the United States have slave names, but they don't realize that slavery was all over the Americas, and slavery took place also in all of the Americas. What was done to African Americans or Black Americans was also done to the black and brown people of Latin America.
I just found out like 3 years ago that my grandmother's grandmother is from Haiti. And the only reason we found out is because my dad is like me. My dad is more open minded and listens to facts instead of dreaming something up. He asked his uncle, and his uncle mentioned that his grandmother had, which is my grandmother's brother, that his grandmother had pelo malo, because that's what they call our hair, bad hair, instead of like kinky or coily hair or whatever. So he asked him, he was like, hey, why did she have bad hair? And he goes, well, she was from Haiti. So he confronted my grandmother and was like, how come you never told us that, your grandmother was Haitian? And she goes, oh, that was a long time ago. It doesn't matter. You can't just erase your history, but that's just how it is. They refuse to accept that we're black.
So they're hiding the Haitian grandma in order to, I mean, what's the goal here?
I don't understand it. That's a good question because I don't understand it.
Can I take a wild guess?
Yes.
Maybe is it because Dominicans find it shameful to be a Haitian, to be identified as a Haitian, to be confused as a Haitian?
Oh yeah, that's a fact. They get very insulted if you say, "Oh, are you Haitian?" They'll get extremely insulted.
So maybe it's them hiding what it's taught to be ashamed of.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's like, when is that gonna stop? Like, I don't know. I just think it's common sense to accept who you are.
Let me ask you a question. When did you start identifying the internal hatred, internal racism?
Oh, since I was a little kid, and especially with my oldest daughter, because of her, she's darker than most of our family and has more coarse hair. So when she was little, it was constantly, oh, you should relax her hair. You should relax. It was like this constant pressure to relax her hair. That was a big thing. Or they'll say, oh, she's so pretty for a black girl. Or ella es una morena, pero una morena fina. And it's like, that's not a compliment.
Stop right there. Can you translate in English what you just said?
Oh, she's black, but she's a pretty black, morena fina. Yeah, a pretty black girl.
What makes her a pretty black girl?
I guess that she doesn't have the typical nose. She does have big lips, but maybe her nose is not big. I don't know.
She has some European features, because usually, from my understanding, when they call somebody morena fina, a negra fina, is because something about their looks has some sort of or certain Eurocentric features.
Maybe
Right?
that does make sense. Fina, porque tiene la nariz fina. So maybe that's what it is. It's the nose. Oh, I want people to know that not every Dominican is like that, because some people, they judge me just because they know that my background is Dominican. There was like, for example, this one guy, this couple, they're from Barbados, lovely, lovely human beings. And when I told him that I was Dominican, he gave me that look, like, oh, they think they're better than us all the time. And I'm like, no, no, I agree with you. That is a valid thing for you to think, but I am not that way. I do know many people that are that way, but not everyone thinks the same. I knew this one girl, her family's from Mexico, and I had mentioned someone to her that was from Guatemala, and she was like, ew. I was like, what do you mean, ew? She goes, they're beneath us. The Guatemalans are beneath Mexicans. Where does that come from?
I'll give you a good example of where that comes from. There's a video on TikTok that's gone viral where they ask a Mexican guy, and this Mexican guy represents a very large percentage of Mexicans in Mexico, generally speaking. They ask this Mexican guy, which are the prettiest women of Mexico? And he says, Jalisco. Now, let me tell you why he says Jalisco, because in Jalisco is where most of the white tea people of Mexico live. Jalisco is known for it to be predominantly white tea people. Okay? Those are the white tea Mexicans, the descendants of colonizers, the criollos. They live in Jalisco. This same individual, they asked him, what about Oaxaca? And he started making fun of Oaxaca and the women of Oaxaca. Now, let me tell you why. Because in Oaxaca is the state of Mexico where it's predominantly indigenous. So, generally speaking, the standard of beauty, just like in this country, the standard of beauty in Mexico and in Latin America is white tea. It's Eurocentric.
Yeah.
And so, when in Mexico, when you talk about la mujeres bonita, it's las blancas. When you talk about las mujeres feas, son las que se miran indígenas. And therefore, you talk about Ricardo. How come, and this is true, how come I asked this Mexican friend of mine about Guatemala, and she, ew, they're benitas? It's because Guatemala is predominantly indigenous. They represent, listen to what I'm telling you, they represent, as an indigenous country, they represent what Mexico has systemically strived to not look like. Mexico's population has attempted to water itself down and become more white tea generation after generation, also known as mejorar la raza, which I know you heard of it.
My grandmother always said, no me dañe la raza.
Say that in English.
Don't mess up our race
How do you mess up the race?
by mixing it with a black person.
There you go, my dear.